Hi YouTube, it's me, Smoking Feather, here today with an interesting little trick or tip. Leather gloves. Pretty, aren't they? They're like yellow. Um, they look more yellow, I think, on the screen than they do actually in person. They're a very, very light tan or beige, nubuck color, whatever. Um, These are not some like $40 pair of gloves. They're like $10 gloves from Walmart. Anybody here in Germany who's interested in doing a little project like this, Autohof. You can get stuff like this for $10 at the Autohof. I bought them there before. I have a pair that I use, and it's great to have gloves like these they're 100% solid leather. They have no lining, and these are great for your kit. It's good to have a couple of pairs of them, so you don't always have to grab them or whatever. You just throw them in your kit, and you got them there for whenever you're out, when you're cooking, stuff like that. Some people like really to use something like that if they're sawing or using an axe or carving as well. I don't do that all the time, but it is a good thing. If you've ever had a pair of leather gloves like this and you've worn them out in the snow or the rain or something, you notice that after a certain point the leather gets saturated and wet and your hands start to get wet. Well, that's because they're not waterproof. They do not come that way. So you got to do something about that. Um, what I do, of course, you may have seen my video on boot care. If not, feel free to check it out. It's got some good tips on waxing and stuff like that. Um, linseed oil, Leinwandöl. I just have this out of it. It comes in a big can I bought at the hardware store, and so I just put it in a small bottle. It's easier for me to work with. Um, I use a paper towel to apply it because if you're using a rag, of course, a piece of cotton is probably going to be a little bit nicer to work with. The problem with that is it is flammable, and you know, if you leave a rag like that around with linseed oil on it, you you could have a fire hazard, and so I'm not one to be a overly cautious person, but at the same time, you don't need to no need to worry about it. So I just use a paper towel, couple of paper towels, fold it over to make a little extra absorbency, and yeah, I'm going to coat my glove with it, and we're going to see that not only does it give the leather a really nice color, but it's also going to waterproof it, which is a great thing because I want to wear these in the bush. I want to use them, and the color of the glove would change at some point anyway, so I don't too much care about that. But the fact that it's not waterproof is also not really serving me very well because, you know, it could be cold, it could be snowing, and I want to be able to pick stuff up and protect myself from getting wet hands, because if my hands get wet out there in the bush on a cold day, yeah, I'm going to get cold. So look at that. Look at the difference already, what that makes. It just, as I said, regardless of the fact that they weren't the most attractive gloves in the beginning, which doesn't matter, it does make them look a lot nicer. So that's like just like a bonus. So that's how I figured out how to do this the best, is just put one of the gloves on and just start coating. And yeah, it takes a little time, but the result, the thing that you're doing for the leather, is a positive thing, even though it takes a little extra time. you're gonna get a lot out of your glove here, and that's what you want. This is also a piece of equipment. It's part of your kit, and your kit's only as good as you make it. And as we all know, I am an advocate to a certain extent of the poor man's bushcraft kit, getting stuff at the dollar store and all this kind of stuff. Like I said, these gloves cost $10 instead of 40, and I don't want to pay 40 bucks for a pair of leather gloves if I can buy them for 10. And I tell you, the ones that you buy for 40, well, they're not going to be waterproof either. So you wouldn't really even be getting anything for your money out of that. That it's a way better way to do this. But at the same time, with this common man kit and all this stuff, you have to be careful. There's a lot of stuff out there that you'll get at the dollar store or at Big Lots or at wherever you may find your bargain center. There's a lot of stuff that you'll find out there that isn't what it says it would be. If you go and buy a hatchet for $10, that's what you're getting. We're not talking about finding a really great axe on eBay and paying $10 for it. We're talking about going to the dollar store and buying something for $10. Your tools are mostly going to be as good as what they cost. And so if you buy a bunch of things like these knockoff Leathermans and things like that, they're not going to have the performance that a real Leatherman is going to have. For a real Leatherman, you're going to pay 5 or 6 times what you might pay at the dollar store. So I think that the common man thing, the dollar store bushcraft kit, it has a place, and it also makes sense to maybe start off that way and until you can invest and then do one piece at a time. Maybe you build a kit from some dollar store products and you buy a good knife. And then after maybe a month or something like that, you've got enough money to go buy yourself a good backpack or a good pair of boots or whatever. I just had a comment from a guy who watched my boot care video, and he was talking about his army boots, and hey man, army boots are great. They're made for soldiers. They're made to withstand like more than we're probably going to put them through, so you can't go wrong with something like that. And if that's your piece of kit, then you're doing the right thing. Everybody's got to figure out what works for him. And if you can find a pair of army issue boots and pay, let's say, 20 or 50 or even $80 or euro or whatever instead of 200, and well, sure, I mean, that's a better value. It's a sensible way to go. Some of us are gonna, opt for spending more money on our kit. I think it's one of those things that comes with age. You've been working for 20 years, and you're kind of in a financial position where you can afford to buy the more expensive piece of kit. Somebody who's starting off may not be able to do that, and that's totally acceptable. And none of it's a have to be situation. I recently experienced that. One thing I will caution on, and I may put this in another video when I'm going to do another cookware review. I bought a stainless steel container, solid container with a lid at the dollar store, and it turned out not to be stainless, even though it was written on there that it's stainless, and it's stamped into the metal, and it rusted. And not that I left it sitting wet and that it rusted, but that it rusted like overnight from one usage. And so be careful what you buy. Be careful what you consider an acceptable piece of dollar store equipment, because it's not always going to be what it says it is. You're going to have to take that into consideration, and yeah, just watch yourselves. Don't believe everything that's written on there and say, wow, but it's only $1 or it's only $5. Some of these things you're going to have to spend the money on at some point. So, that's where I am on my glove so far. You can see the before result, and it's looking pretty good. Here's the glove before, and you know, by doing this with it on like this, I'm also it also starts to take some of the shape of my hand and fit my hand really nicely. So this is a 15-minute project and a $10 investment, and you get yourself a really reliable glove that you can also stick into the fire. I don't mean in the fire, but you can pick your pots up and stuff like that and not worry about ruining it. You know, you've got something that you can rely on and also use up, and not feel that you're sometimes when we get these really expensive pieces of kit, we're almost afraid to use them, you know. Like I've experienced that before, that you bought something and you're all of a sudden like you don't want to lay it down somewhere and all that. That's also no fun. So only buy these expensive things if you're going to use them to their extent and not be worried about messing them up. Okay, that was my video for today. I hope everybody liked it. Thanks for watching, and hope you like it and subscribe and come back for more. Have a great day. Happy bushcrafting. Bye.